when we talk about critical thinking, it's nothing new. It has actually been the tool of survival for the man since the man stood on 2 feet, actually. So from those days, from the ages of hunter-gatherer, from the civilized to the civilized age, do we call it civilized, to the civilized modern 21st century, that critical thinking has knowingly or unknowingly been our tool of survival. And we do it in our daily life. It's nothing, it's not a rocket science, and it's nothing new which we are talking about. The only thing is, are we doing it with a realization? No. Are we doing it with a cautious mind? That is what is absent. So we without realizing it, we do as a natural part of our personality and psyche. So this is what we do. But when it comes down to critical thinking, focusing on a particular domain or particular area or particular premise, then it becomes more important. So as teachers are naturally leaders. And those teachers, if you look at the premise of a school, those teachers are actually headed by some leader. Those teachers themselves are leaders. They lead their students. These teachers then are led in turn by their head of departments. Those head of departments are led by the vice principal and the management, and so much hierarchy is involved. That's the standard hierarchy we follow. And depending on the size of the institution, there are many. But the basic nature is like this. So for these leaders, right from the top management down to the teacher, or I would say the class monitor. Now, class monitor is actually a student who is there to learn. So let's exclude class monitor from this, and we come down to teacher. All these people, for them, critical thinking is not only the tool of survival, the tool of excelling in their job. Their tool is actually affecting the life of the end beneficiary, that is a student. So for the leaders, it is very imperative, it is very critical that they make their decisions in a very fair, in a very unbiased, and in a very unemotional way. So that is what is important. So think of the leaders of our country, or think of the leaders of any country for that matter. Their decision is going to affect the entire populace, entire masses. So whatever the decisions they take, whatever laws they make, whatever rules they pass, if it is not going through the suitable process of critical thinking, you can think of the consequences and its ramifications. So that is very important. Critical thinking for a leader is very, very important. For a common man, if you look at a common man, a person who is earning for the family is playing a role of a different kind of leader. A lady who is a mother in the family, who has children, a husband to take care of, or maybe she's senior most in the household, and there is a joint family. So for that lady, she's the leader, and critical thinking is important for them, and they do that. They apply critical thinking in their daily life. So through certain activities, now this is something, critical thinking is not computer programming, where I give you some examples and where I give you some syntax and I show you one demonstration and that is done. No, it's not that. Critical thinking is a very abstract term. It has to be understood, and to understand it, it's like, you have to experience it. So it's like card game. It's like any sports where to actually understand the sports, you have to play it. So this is what is the purpose of the activities which I'll take you through. And here you see certain statements. So you read the statement carefully. And again, I request you not to discuss with anyone. You read the statement one by one, think over it, and either you mention on your paper yes or no. If you agree with it, yes. If you don't agree with it, no. So you take up one by one. I'll give you enough time for that. So your time starts now. You can go through. There is no question of being right or wrong. You just go through the statement as such. And if you feel yes, you write yes for it. Otherwise, no. So you have these 7 more sentences over here. Do the same thing. Go through them and agree yes or no, depending on what you think. All these 16 sentences if you pick up the odd ones, like sentence number 1, sentence number 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on. For these sentences, if your response is yes, I repeat, for all the odd numbered sentences, if your response is mostly yes, 80% yes, then there are 8 sentences in all. So out of 8 sentences, if you're 6, you have got 6 yeses on odd number of sentences, then you exhibit the traits of a critical thinker, a strong critical thinker. So if you have most of the yeses with odd numbered sentences, you are a strong critical thinker. Or if these 8 sentences are not enough to prove that, you are a potential strong critical thinker. You have that potential. So when you say the meetings where people have just come to share a tea and samosa and their opinions, then that meeting is a waste of time. The meetings are actually meant to discuss the agenda, reasonable, and should reach some conclusion. So the meeting, if the meetings where people share opinions only, if those meetings are boring, yes, they are boring. They are useless for critical thinkers. Sentence number 3, it is important what people say, but also what they really mean. So as we say that the meaning does not lie in the word, the meaning lies in the mind. So many times what happens during discussions, people are saying something, but they are saying a lot behind the scene. They are saying a lot without saying it. Those things. So for the leaders, that has to be a very, it's a very critical skill. It's a very important skill to hear what has not been said. This happens when you're dealing with a parent. This happens when you're dealing with a class 12 student, because they are a grown up. They are not small kids. Small kids will exactly speak about their feeling, and it's not difficult to understand them. But if you are dealing with a class 10, class 11, class 12 student, they are speaking something, but they are emotional guys. They are meaning a lot. So you should be able to see that. In sentence number 5, in my assignments and tasks, I do better if I think and plan things myself. Now that's a typical of a teacher. I bet that everyone would have got yes on this sentence. So when as a teacher, you are a planned creature. By nature, you plan the things. You cannot move ahead without a plan. Timetable is one example. Lesson plan is another example. Your session plan is yet another example. 7th statement, before declaring my decisions, I think through all the viable options. Now that's a very typical trait of a manager, of a leader who is sitting at the top, who is leading a group, who is leading a team. They do not divulge until they are very sure that they are going to do justice to everyone, especially for our vice principals, the people who are sitting in the chair of a principal, HOD, where they have to deal with all the teachers. They have to listen to the problems of all the teachers. They have to cater to the requirements, professional requirements of all the teachers. Many times they resolve the disputes. Many times they resolve the disputes pertaining to students and parents. And their life is so difficult. A person who is sitting there in the chair of a principal, it's a hot seat. And you might move into a mall, or you might move into the market, and they say, smile, you are on a camera. Our leaders, principals, vice principals, managers, HODs, they are always on camera, even if those gadgets are switched off, because they have to somewhere share their decisions. And if their decision is wrong, they are criticized like hell. Isn't it? Nobody is ready to take their blame. Criticism will come first hand. 24-karat criticism comes over. Okay, no, this decision is not good. She should have thought, he should have thought about this and that. Many things come up. So it's a very sensitive scenario. Number 9, I prefer to read and research myself instead of just using someone else's notes or work. Frankly speaking, we are in a academic culture where if I'm working on a project, and if some other student, somebody else has also worked on that project, I would love to copy paste. If I have to write an article for some magazine, I tried to copy paste something and do some remix, and that's it. So that's not research. That is just, paraphrasing, or you can say smart, smart picking up the things from there. That is plagiarism, we call it. That's a smart plagiarism, nothing else. So research is different. So actually a critical thinker will, of course, will try to read other people's notes just to learn from it. But his or her work would be genuine. Moving on, sentence number 11. Even if I tend to disagree and reject, I first try to see the merit in the opinion. That happens when we are in a group discussion. That happens when we are in an argument with somebody. That happens when we are in meetings. In democratic meetings where everybody has to say something and one person has to get everyone reach to a common conclusion for the good of everybody. Now that scenario, that setup happens in schools often when we go for school meetings, in academic institutions, in businesses, board meetings, this happens. So where a lot of opinions come, we might not agree with all of them, and we feel like rejecting outrightly some opinion, but still we first try to flip it in every which way possible and to see what positive is there. Am I overlooking something which is useful there? A very good suggestion is coming from a teacher, and just because of some bias or just because of some presumption, I have not tried to understand it and I just outrightly reject it. Okay, I have noted it down, I'll see to it. If this is the response, there might be 100 reasons behind it. But as a leader, am I overlooking something? That should be the question. That should be the reflection. Then number 13, even if problem seems to be a bit more challenging, I try ways around it and work it out. This our teachers do every day. So I would not elaborate on that. Everybody agrees with that. 15th, intelligent decisions are as important as the right decisions and winning arguments. Now, there is a difference between intelligent decisions and right decisions. Many times what happens is somebody takes a very right decision for ourselves, especially when we were kids and our parents were taking decisions for us for our own good. Those decisions were right. They might not be that intelligent, but at that moment they were right decisions. So a person who is looking very intelligent, taking intelligent decisions today, this is the age of image. If somebody has got an image created socially, people look through that image to that person. The reality of that person is hidden behind that image. So that happens in institutions, that happens in gatherings also. So if somebody is seen to be taking intelligent decision, it might be that it is the right decision. So intelligent decisions are as important. They are important as the right decisions. Right decisions are more important, especially when you have to win the argument for the sake of yourself and others. So these odd numbered statements, if you have got yes for them, you have the potential or you are a critical thinker. Now we pick up the sentences which are even ones. These sentences, if you have given them yes, then you are yet to develop your critical thinking skills and your critical thinking temperament. You are yet to develop. Now I come to those scenarios where all the 16 yeses were there. If there are all the 16 yeses, then there is some potential in you to be a critical thinker, but you have to develop the skills to be a critical thinker. This is what is required. So if you have all the yes responses, 16 yeses are there, the things are not bleak. You have to just filter out, you have to just sift, and you have to look at your skills, which I will share with you, how to do it. And then you can figure out that, of course, you can be a critical thinker is actually hidden inside you. You just have to take him out. You have to just take her out. That is what is only required, a little effort. If these even number sentences, mostly they are no. Again, you are a critical thinker. So as I said earlier, there is no question of right or wrong, because thinking and decisions many times depend on the situation. Many times they depend on the kind of relationships we have with the people. Many times they depend on kind of consequences we might have. So it's not a question of right or wrong. Like I said, there could be intelligent decisions and there could be right decisions. So this exercise was just to take you through an experience to find out whether that critical thinker inside you is there or not. So this is what the purpose of the exercise, to get you going, get you thinking on the lines of critical thinking. So definition of something, if it is a scientific topic, there could be a set definition about the things. There could be a boundary. But when you talk about something as abstract as thinking, how can you define it into a boundary? What I want you to create a definition out of your understanding so far. So keeping all this in mind, can you devise a definition of critical thinking of your own, the definition which is different from the book? This is a story what you see on the screen. For your convenience, slowly I am reading it out also. You can go through it yourself also. There was a girl named Anna who lived with her poor mother. On the occasion of New Year, her mother thought of buying Anna a set of colorful ribbons, since Anna had beautiful long hair. Anna loved her mother very much. She was also thinking of buying a beautiful gift for her mother. Her mother used to sew clothes for the villagers. She had a set of needles and threads which was too old. Anna wished to buy a new set of needles and threads encased in a shining new glass box for her mother, but she did not have enough money. Suddenly she got an idea. Well, on the eve of New Year, Anna's mother called her and said, "Look, Anna, what have I got for you? A set of hair ribbons." Anna said, "Wow, mother, they are really beautiful, but alas." Saying this, she removed her cap and showed her short hair and said, "Mother, I bought this set of new needles and threads for you by selling my long hair to the barber." So there is, anti-climax in the story. Moving to the next slide, here it is. It's a set of questions which again you have to answer, not from your neighbor's opinion, your own opinion, your own thought process. Now, when Anna had said that she had sold her hair to arrange for the money to buy her mother the gift, what could be her mother's reaction according to you? Uski mother ne kya reaction diya hoga? Put yourself in Anna's shoes and her mother's shoes and try to think out of her mother's reaction on that. I think if you are sitting in your place and you speak out, I am able to hear it if you want to share your opinion, or you can write it down on the paper. What would be her mother's reaction? She would have said, "Oh my God, Anna, what have you done?" I'm giving you some possible responses. One possible response is, "My goodness, Anna, what have you done? This is a New Year's Eve and you are giving me this news. You sold your hair just for the sake of me." There could be different reaction. Her mother could be of a different kind of temperament. So she would have said, "It's all right, Anna. Things happen. Doesn't matter. God bless you, my dear. You got me the gift and you will get your hair back soon." This is another reaction. Another third reaction could be, "Anna, we are so unlucky people. God never blesses us with much blessings which we need every time. It's a New Year auspicious occasion and see what God has done." She is, blaming kind. And there could be different reactions depending on the different personalities and dispositions. Did they do something wrong? What do you say? Did these two creatures, Anna and her mother, have they done something wrong? Now, there could be different opinions. If they have done something wrong, what was that? Looking at the anticlimax of the story, can you tell me what, if they have done something wrong, what was that? And if they have not done something wrong, then why? Well, if we look at the question, if they have done something wrong, what was that? Now, there are perspective. There is something called perspective when we analyze the things, when we try to interpret the things. Here, people with a strong opinion will say they should have talked to each other. They should have planned it. A good planner will say they should have planned it and discussed it. Then they would not have met this disappointment, especially Anna. Her mother has actually got her gift. She did not lose anything, but Anna lost her hair, and her gift was also not useful at that moment. Now, some people will say, no, they did not do anything wrong. So such people will be asked, why do you say so? Now, these people are of different perspective. They will say that that was an occasion where people try to give surprises to each other. How can they discuss? So if they are going to discuss beforehand, all the surprise is gone. It seems like a staging. It seems like caricaturing or choreographing, gifting each other. So that takes away all the fun. So that comes to the conclusion that it was nobody's fault actually. In life, sometimes what happens, we try to look for the fault and put it or pin it on somebody. Actually, the fault is in the situation, not in the person. But we always have people to blame too. We cannot hang the situation, but we always have somebody to hang. So it's easier to find people and pin the opinions and pin the decisions on them. So this story tells us that sometimes nobody is at fault. And we have to be considerate enough to look at that. Sometimes dispute happen. One person's word against another person, this person's word against this person. Both are standing in front of you. Both are complaining. At one point, the point from both the sides look valid, and they are valid. But still, nobody could be at fault. There are situations. Critical thinking makes us capable to see that. So we will see what skills you will need to do that very shortly. I'm just getting you through that experience of those things. Aisi cheezein, these things might have happened with you in certain situations earlier. So try to recall such situation. What did you do? Trying to find the fault of one person, resolve, because in court this happens. In the court of law, there are two parties, and this happens. One has to go to the gallows, one has to go to the jail, one has to be fined, and the other has to be acquitted. Yes or no kind of decision. But in life, real life, things are gray. They are not black and white. So many times we have to be considerate enough. And many times our judges also do that. They give this kind of judgment that every party goes with a win-win situation, with the happy heart. This also happens. Now, who is the loser in this story? Again, a question of perspective. If you look at the material gain perspective, then of course Anna is the loser. But if you look at it with a different angle, you will see that Anna soon will get her hair back, and then she will be able to use that ribbon. So it's just a matter of time. Nobody is a loser actually, from one perspective. Yes, at that moment, New Year does not come every day. At that particular New Year Eve occasion, Anna cannot use that ribbon, of course. Well, but Anna might be looking smarter in short hair. Who knows? So there are different angles to look at the things. Why Anna did what she did? Anna ne wo kyun kiya? Why did she cut the hair off? Again, the situation. Many times what we see that people have done something. We also see what exactly they have done. When we are actually very good at blaming, if I have to find some fault in somebody, I will have 10 points ready beforehand. So if the session is going on very well, something goes wrong, I have 20 blames. Oh, school ke side pe network kharab tha. I will not look at my internet connection. It might be wrong with something with that connection. What I will say, oh, school did not arrange very well. Their internet connection was bad. The network in their area was not working. And the IT person in their school did not, you see, so many blames ready. But what happens, we did not look at why. If we try to find out why, people will call us considerate. So, and that's very difficult, somebody is angry at you and you are trying to look at why he is angry with me. Instead of thinking ki mera mauka aane do, I will teach you a lesson. How dare you get angry with me? I stop looking at my fault. I look at his anger only. But did I ever stop and think why this person is angry at me? If people start thinking like this, many, disputes will resolve. Many disputes will not even occur. People traveling together, they come into a hot argument and then things go out of balance. But if their people think, stop, everybody is not a critical thinker. Ek aam janta, common masses are not critical thinker. It's an individual's skill. Everybody has to think about his own skills of critical thinking. So things would be better if people think like that, but that does not happen naturally. We are human beings. Could Anna have done something different? This is another thing. Whenever you are being a leader, being a vice principal or in management or anybody who has a team below him or her, this is very important. Could that person have done something different? This is very important when we are giving feedback to others. Many times what happens, being a group leader, I call my team member who is not performing very well. I talk to him or her and I try to make him or her see things from my perspective. I try to convey the message that, look, this is wrong and this is how it should be corrected. So there, at that point, I will be telling that person what things could have been done differently. So I'm not only giving the feedback, I'm also trying to help that person. That is the purpose of the feedback actually. Feedbacks have to be suggestive. If I'm telling the person a problem with him or her, I should be ready with the solution also. If I'm only telling the problem, I'm only aggravating the problem. That person will immediately shut off and will stop taking my feedback. And that person will take that as a personal criticism. But if my feedback is coming with 3 options, okay, this is the problem and these are the 3 suggestions you can follow to get this problem solved, that person will follow you. That person will again come to you for help. So this is the difference between a leader and a true leader. Critical thinking brings about good from the people. So when we are interacting with actually critical thinking is mostly involved where we interact with other people. And this process of critical thinking not only helps us, it also brings about good from other people also, because they learn from us. If I'm a principal or if I'm an owner of a school or if I'm the boss in my company, like I'm holding the designation of director in my company, academic director. Now there is a team. So when I'm giving them these kind of feedbacks, I'm interacting with them. At that time, they're learning also. And one day they will lead somebody and they will apply the same thing. So people treat others the way they are treated by others. So it's, you are unknowingly passing on the learning, and unknowingly through your critical thinking skills, you are trying to create a good society. The 40 students which are sitting in the classroom listening to you, you are training them in critical thinking tactfully. They are going out, where and how they influence other people. So if you are making good citizens out of them, you are actually helping the society. So one single teacher is standing in a classroom somewhere in country, in a nation, and talking to 40 students is actually creating a society, a positive task, a positive contribution to the society. That's a very big thing. That's why we admire our teachers. So we move on further. Now we come down to some more experience of it, and people mind that we have still not defined critical thinking. I have not come to the definition of critical thinking. More than half of the time is gone. Doesn't matter. So we quickly look at this statement. I suppose you can see this. Integration of now these are 3 situations. What I want you to do is, what do you know about this? These 3 things are actually given there. What do you know about the topic? That you write down in your notebook. So whatever paper or notebook you have, I suggest you that you write down, so that becomes an evidence of that you are the part of the workshop. You can show this as this will go in your school records. Okay, this person has done all this work during the workshop. So it's very important to scratch something on your notebook. So integration of arts and artificial intelligence with other subjects is a necessary move by the educational board. Many of you might agree with this, many of you don't. So if you agree or do not agree, whatever is your reason behind it, that you mention on the paper. I will not ask you to share that. So be rest assured, you can simply write down your opinion. You agree or don't. Again, nothing right and wrong. Teachers who already have a busy schedule find it difficult to integrate art and artificial intelligence in their lesson plans. Now, this sentence I have put on deliberately to actually, hinder with your judgment. That purposefully I have done, the second point. And the third point also I have purposefully done to disturb your thought process. Students need to learn in the innovative ways of 21st century pedagogy. So I have given a statement, number one. The second point is one argument against it. And the third point is another argument in favor of it. So now after reading these two statements, the second one and the third one, after reading this, you will be a dilemma. Okay, should I agree with it or not? Now, there are certain notions in our mind. Some people will say, how does it matter if I agree with or not? It's a mandate which has come from authority and I have to do it. Why you have to do it? Because other people, some leaders, some people at the top have already done that critical thinking part. And they have come to the conclusion that integration of arts and AI is important. And so schools have to do it. But then when it comes to the practical grounds, who is going to do it actually? Not those decision makers. They have made the policy. Who is going to do it? The teacher is going to do it in the classroom. Now it depends on the teacher up to what extent teacher can do. That connects with the second point. If a teacher is very busy with several classes, that teacher might not be able to integrate these two in all their lesson plans, but they might try in one of them, maybe 2 lesson plans or once a month in some part of their subject. They can try to do that, integrating art or AI, but they will not be able to do it in all of it because they are already busy with many things. And this integration requires a lot of time and effort. But then there is an argument, students need to learn innovative ways. We are in 21st century. Our students deserve more than this. So we have to do it for their sake. So this is just an experience where what happens is when we are going to make some decision, when we are going to take some side, there are always some points which are in favor. There are always some points which are against. And out of that, we have to think. So there you have to question, how much knowledge do I have about the topic? Am I aware of artificial intelligence? Do I know what it is? Do I know what is arts more than the arts teacher sitting there? A mathematics teacher would be wondering, how the hell I'm going to attach art in my mathematics equations? Tough question. But arts teacher might be having that answer because they are the subject matter expert. Artificial intelligence is a complete alien thing for all the teachers except IT teachers. So how the hell they have the idea to integrate that? They will look at the IT teacher for that. And even for IT teachers, that's a new subject. Then that is one thing. You might knowing a lot, you might be knowing or not knowing about the situation. So you have to reveal, you have to investigate. When we are going to take some decision, we have to investigate the things. Then when we are investigating, are we investigating honestly? That depends on our willingness of investigation. That comes to the second question, what do you want to know? If a detective is trying to solve a crime, if that detective really wants to solve the crime, he will ask the right questions from the right people. If a policeman really wants to solve a crime, that policeman will follow the correct course of investigation. But if that case just has to be closed, it can be done like this. But that is not fair. And out of this entire thing, what did you learn? That I have already been discussing with you, that this is what we learned from it, that to reach to a particular right decision, like many teachers shared with us, setting ourselves aside from our beliefs, our biases, and somebody told us that trying to find out what is right to be done, right, taking correct decisions, that is the definition of critical thinking. But what is the process? You must investigate, and you must investigate honestly and willingly. If you are going to solve a dispute, you have to look into both the sides thoroughly. That is what is needed, and without bias. Maybe one person could be your favorite, one person you might be hating for some reason, but when it comes to doing justice, these things should be put aside. And that's, I tell you guys, is a very humble and gentle job, which is rarely seen in this new world. So if you are practicing this as a teacher, as an educator, and teaching your children, you are really going to do a great job, no matter which subject you are teaching. So this is another sort of learning I have added about critical thinking. This is the definition of critical thinking. It is a skill to think logically and take decisions after investigation, informed decisions, and which are, according to you, the best possible decisions. It is an ability to understand clearly what all ideas have been put on the table, and you try to relate them together and try to picture the correct logical image out of it, so that you can take the decision. Like in board meetings, like in any kind of meeting, there are many people putting their opinions and suggestions and feedback on the table. It being a leader, you have to connect them, you have to find out a logical connection between them, and you should be prudent enough to come to a conclusion. And ability to analyze the information without any bias, without any taking sides, objectively, that is called. And you make a judgment which actually all the parties, even if they are not agreeing, they should not be able to criticize. If you are able to do that, you are actually defining critical thinking. And that you might have seen as a tough job, because as one teacher has shared with us, that we take the decisions depending on the situation. So when we do that depending on the situation, then it becomes difficult. Sometimes some people are not very happy with our decisions. So there has to be some balance. And of course, that's why we cannot put critical thinking into a jacket of definition. But this is what we have found out from all the interaction which we have been doing for past 90 minutes. Moving further, we have the definition in place. Now, this big question, when the notice would have come to you from the school management, to all the teachers, okay, guys, on a bright, beautiful Saturday, 12 o'clock, you will be attending a training on critical thinking. The first question, why? This is why. Because teachers have a responsibility to create societies, good societies. And as I told you earlier, if you're teaching very well, not only critical thinking, any subject, you are making a good society. So critical thinking actually paves the way to social good, which as a teacher you can do. You are teaching someone making good decisions, they will refine their life and they will refine other people's life. So it's a very positive cascade of goodness into the society. And it is very helpful in solving the problems. Thinking with a purpose of solving a problem, reaching a conclusion. So that is, critical thinking is that tool. And when we talk about critical thinking in terms of academic terms, you pick up a book written on critical thinking, 300 pages, you read it, you might get the skill. You practice it, you will get the skill. Skill is one aspect, the spirit is other aspect. Skill is what you can develop. Skill is something which we do not, we do not take birth with any skill. Skill is always learned. There is something called talent. Talent actually helps us in mastering certain particular kind of skills. But spirit has to be there. Spirit relates with our attitude, willingness. We all are good people. We all are good people in the entire world. every single person is a good person, but it is the willingness, it is the spirit which makes us different, which makes us good or bad, ugly. Like you might have seen that, you might have heard that story of Angulimal. Angulimal, when Buddha met him, Buddha just said one sentence, Angulimal, ab to thehar ja. And that person Angulimal, completely was converted. He was completely converted from a demon to a human being. So similarly, attitude. I might be capable of critical thinking. I might be very good at critical thinking, but I might not be practicing it. I don't care about the people around me and I'm not practicing it. I hardly care. So spirit, the disposition, the personality part is also important. I'm sitting in an important chair. There is a team in front of me and I'm very capable. That's why I have got that chair is not enough. Unless in my heart, I have that willingness to do really good to my people. So critical thinking has to be there from willingness. And only human beings, the God has given this virtue of choice only to the human beings. If you look at the trees, they cannot move, they cannot change their place. If a seed has got good water, good sunlight and good minerals, good nutrition, it will come out as a beautiful tree. But certain seeds die. They do not get proper environment. A seed cannot change the place. A seed cannot say, it's weather is not good here. Let me move to another city, fertile land. Never happens. Look at the animals. Animals already know what is good and bad for them. They are programmed by God. An animal knows there is the danger, there is the food. They know. Human being is the only creature who does not know what is good or bad about him. Only we human beings. But we human beings from God, from Almighty, have been given the power of choice. And that choice is very important. Critical thinking is useless if you have the skill and you don't use it. It's like a sniper who can kill the enemy, but not pulling the trigger because he thinks he doesn't feel like it. So skills might be there. Skills are important. Willingness is more important. What are the skills? Listening skills, which is a very, very rare skill. Guys, I confess, sometimes I fail into that. When people are talking, when people are telling something, especially during a dispute which I have to resolve, I have to be all ears. I have to keep quiet and listen what the person is saying, because only then I will be able to listen what he is not saying also. As I discussed earlier, the meaning behind the words, reading between the lines. So that is very important. Listening is the first virtue of a critical thinker, because after listening, all the facts will be in front of you in their genuine form. And then only you will consider the facts. If you're not listening properly, the facts will be contaminated from your own interpretation, from your own bias, from your own opinions and perspective. And what you are now looking at, what you are considering are not facts. They are already maligned by your opinions, by your thought process. That should not be there. And then when I have the facts, I have to choose the facts. Is this correct? Is this rational? Is this reasonable? Relevance, I have to find out. What is the relevance? When we are discussing something, many things people say which actually do not connect with the subject. So we have to filter it out. We have to see the relevance of the matter. And we have to be unbiased. We have to be very, very fair, especially when we are deciding for others. If I'm deciding for myself, I will always be 100% fair, playing King Vikramaditya. But when we talk about others, it's really difficult. We start taking sides. He has been my friend. He shares lunch with me in the staff room. He saved me one day from one very unpleasant situation. I just got promotion from my senior. And how can I not favor him or her? Many things are there. It's a social life. So fairness is very difficult, but you have to practice it as much as you can. Or if you cannot, if possible, you better bail out of that situation and leave it if you can. Do not play the role of a judge there. Let it, if possible, let somebody else do that. if you are not going to be fair in that situation. Sensible alternatives. Now, what happens if we are going to take some decisions, we are going to do something, there are many alternatives. Which one is most viable? That has to be, that critical thinking actually helps into that. So we have to be very sensible in deciding the alternatives, eliminating the alternatives. What is good, what is good, what is bad, especially in this COVID situation. Should the students come to the school? Should they not? Which classes? How many classes? What are the norms, COVID norms? Are we ready to follow them? What if something goes wrong, unfortunately, with some student, who will take the blame? Many 100 questions have to be answered. And I tell you, it has been a very difficult job for a school management to decide on that, because it's a very sensitive issue. Even if a child sneezes, people are there with opinion. They will just attack. कि वो हो गया कोविड, उसको हो गया, वो खबर छप जाएगी कोविड हो गया, बाद में a detailed investigation will find out after 10 years कि वो सिर्फ छींका था, उसको हल्का सा कोल्ड था, सुबह नहा लिया था. So these things happen. So sensitive alternatives, coherent and clear in explanation. Now, being a leader of a team, you might be very good at listening, considering fact, being fair, you are very honest, but you should be able to explain and articulate yourself very clearly. Sometimes what happens, because of our limited communication skills, we are not able to convey what actually we want. So in that situation, I suggest you follow the most comfortable language which you are in. If you are not able to speak in English, speak your own language, mother tongue, so that you can clearly convey what is there. Somebody can translate it to others, or you might write it down. Best ways, if you have time, you can write down. You can say, okay, guys, in a meeting, you can say, okay, I have taken everybody's decision. I have recorded. We have the recording also. I will listen to it. I have made my notes. Tomorrow, sometime, let's meet for 10 minutes and I will share my take on this. So you have bought some time. At night, you made the notes. You are very coherent now. You exactly know what has to be spoken, and next day you just read it out. So what happened? You have been very clear in your explanation. So if communication skills and language are coming in the way, these are certain ways out. There is no shame in accepting that no one is perfect in communication, you know, even not me. I don't know how to communicate with people. Seriously, I just find the person in front of me and accordingly I improvise. Nobody is. We all are not those, speakers with halo behind their head. So you can use your tools. Being a teacher, write down and speak, read it out. So these are the skills which you have to inculcate in yourself. Many of the skills might already be in you, hidden. Many of you are very good listeners. Many of you are very good speakers also. So sometimes what happens, instead of listening, we tend to speak. You know, we are restless. Meeting mein mujhe bhi kuch bolna hai. There are certain people like that. It's good. It's good. You are trying to contribute, but listen first, because listening helps you, first of all, to gather your thoughts. When you are listening, you are gathering your thoughts, and it makes you capable to respond in the most appropriate manner, because now you have all the details. So whenever I'm talking on phone with somebody, when somebody calls me, my team member, and he's telling me something, I do not even say, ha, yes, no, I do not prompt. I just say, okay, tell me. Now that person is speaking, I'm listening. Sometimes he thinks that even I'm there on the other side or not. So they say, hello, sir, are you listening? Then I say, okay, yes, carry on. So I'm just listening. I'm making him speak everything. Now what happens is, sometimes what happens, that person is standing in front of you or maybe on phone, and he is speaking and you're listening. You let him speak. After speaking, there would be a point where he will keep quiet. All what he has to say is done. So do not ask that person, are you done? Is there anything else you want to add? Do not do that. Just keep quiet for another 10 seconds. Another 10 seconds, you keep quiet and you keep looking at that person. Sit still, look at it might sound very foolish at first time. 10 seconds, you're looking at a person speaking nothing. What will he think? But that's a tactic. After 10 seconds, if that person is telling you a decorated story or telling you lie, will speak again. because he will think from your silence that you have not believed him. And when a liar thinks that he is not being believed, he tries to add more evidence, more fake evidence. So they will speak more. And in speaking more unnecessarily, they will reveal the facts. So that's a very smart move, keeping quiet and listening. And then you get the real facts to consider. And this is the process. Depending on the skill, this is what we do. We come across some fact, some opinion, some statement, something said by somebody, some reaction from somebody, and we try to interpret it. And from that starting point, things may go wrong. Interpretation has to be very correct. Then only we analyze the information which we have got. After analysis, we come to some conclusion, some alternatives, we evaluate them. We evaluate those alternatives by reflection, by going back, thinking, brainstorming maybe in a group, and then we come to a particular conclusion. So this is what we do: interpret, analyze, evaluate the alternatives by reflection. And interpretation, when we come to interpretation, how do you summarize this? There are two aspects of interpretation. What have you understood and how are you going to express it? You might have heard about Chinese whisper. You might have played also, or your children, your students. So what have you understood is one part, but when I'm going to express it, it might change. So communication skills are very important here. As I said, you have to be coherent and you have to be very good at articulating. So not only understanding, you should be able to describe, and without bias. You need to find out the intention behind the words, especially in disputes. You try to find out the intent of the person. If the person intent is negative or wrong, it would be easier for you to decide. Distinguishing the main idea. What is the crux of the problem? What is the point of the discussion? What is the actual agenda of the discussion? That will, identifying that will help you to reach the conclusion. Otherwise, you will pass a judgment which is completely different from the problem. You are not addressing the problem, you are creating another conflict out of it due to wrong decision. So the point, the central idea, that's why we ask the people, what do you want? That's a very straightforward question. And we must ask it without hesitation. If somebody is coming to you and talking something which you're not able to understand, especially if somebody is coming to me, one of my team member came to me complaining about somebody else without taking his or her name. कि सर उसके साथ तो ऐसा होता है, हमारे साथ ऐसा नहीं होता है, this and that, all that. So I asked that person, what do you want? I did not ask him, what do you want to say? Because he's already saying what he wants to say. I asked him, what do you want? Need. What is the need? So I was trying to go to the crux of the problem, the actual point on which the discussion should open. And when I said, what do you want? The person kept quiet. Because his purpose of coming to me and complaining was completely different. It was, it was not good. So he has no words to explain himself what he wants. He wanted nothing. He just actually want to create problem for somebody else. So what do you want? When you ask this question, things come down to reasonable, concise matter. That helps you to distinguish the actual idea of discussion. Maybe there is no dispute at all. In many cases, actually, this happens. There is no dispute at all. People are just against each other in opinion, and things actually go out of hands. So if you ask them, what do you want? Things might resolve, and the situation can be dissolved then and there. Then if we do this with our students, we ask them, what do you want? So they come straightforward, this is what we want. And with your authority, you tell them yes or no. So that helps in clarification. So when you're interpreting, when you're listening to somebody, maybe your bias, that is very natural. My bias, my opinion is coming in between, unknowingly, naturally. So wherever I have doubt, I need to clarify. Always ask question. Do not be ashamed of asking question. Always tell them, okay, so what you have told me, I understand that this is this thing. So you restate what that person has said according to your understanding. What will happen? That person will listen to you and he might say yes or no, or he might add something, or he might say, no, you are wrong. This is not what I meant to say. This is what I meant to say. This happens. But we do not do that. We do not clarify. We carry our own interpretation of that and we worsen the situation. So somebody complains to me, like I am the middleman. This happens with middlemen many times. Somebody is above me and somebody is below me. That subordinate of mine comes to me with a complaint, maybe a genuine complaint, and I do not do the interpretation correctly. And with my interpretation, I put it in front of that authority who is going to decide. And I have already spoiled the case. Who is at loss? That person. I'm the middleman. I did not do my duty perfectly. So clarifying is very important. That's why in very formal situations like institutions and businesses, things go through written paper. Either it is an email or written application, so that things are very clear. But every time writing is not possible in day-to-day course. Paraphrasing is it's a very important skill. Listening to somebody, understanding it, and then telling it to somebody else so that there is no confusion. Again, your communication skills come into here. So interpretation is very important. You goof up here, entire flow of this critical thinking process will be at peril. Because analysis will happen on what? On your interpretation. So you should be able to identify not only the facts, you should be able to connect with them. Like our investigative journalists do. Like when we are talking to the students, two students have a fight with each other, and then they come to the class teacher. Now class teacher, they both are blaming each other. Here class teacher has to do class teacher is in a very tricky situation because both are his students and he have to be fair. Even he is going to be fair, those are kids, they will not understand that. So if he is going to pass a decision which is against one student, that student will be miffed. He will not be happy. This happens. So analysis of facts, if you tell them, okay guys, these are the facts and on the basis of this is your punishment or this is your reward. So they might understand you on what basis you have passed the judgment. And that helps you to choose the alternatives. What to do, what not to do. Kya hum classes lagaye COVID mein ya na lagaye. If we are going for the classes, which class children should be brought to the school? What all things, what are arrangements we have to do? Are those arrangements the responsibility of the school or the parent? Or what all these arrangements are the responsibility of parent and school? If parents are not following the norms and not making those arrangements, who is responsible? Who will ask them to do that? And if a school has some gap in making arrangements, how parents are going to handle that? So this all has to be analyzed before coming to the decision. Evaluate. We should be capable to evaluate the things from every angle. You turn around and ask questions and evaluate it from all perspectives. Take opinion from others. In certain situations, what we do, we bring all people and we do brainstorming, which is a very good exercise. And then there is something called inference. Our science teachers know what inference is. In inference, what happens in the practical lab, when they are when they're recording the practical findings in their notebook, there is a field called inference. Now, inference is not the final judgment. Inference is just what all possibilities could be there. And out of those possibilities, students come up with one conclusion out of the experiment of that science topic. So inference is just a list of alternatives which are shortlisted. There could be 10 alternatives. With your capability of inference, you will be able to take out 5 relevant alternatives from them, and then you decide on that. So inference capability of identifying the elements to draw final conclusion. So you point out, okay, point number 1, 2, 3. These 3 we will consider. Out of these 3, we will take some decision. So inference is a bridge between your analysis and your final conclusion. One more thing, at inference level, you can do the brainstorming. At inference level also, you can do discussion with experts, with others also. You can take other people's input. And when you have taken a particular alternative, when you have chosen an alternative, okay, by applying all my critical skills, I have decided this to do. How are you going to explain this to others, especially when you are a team leader? As a team leader, you have taken that decision. but you have to take your team together. Is your team going to agree with you? And if you think that this is the correct decision, you have to convince your team that it is correct. This is where the explanation skills come. So when you have taken a decision, you should always be ready with the evidences also. Keep all the evidences ready. Show them, guys, this was the situation, this was the problem, this is what we came about, this is what we are going to do, and why we are going to do is these are the reasons, these are the evidences. So when you show the evidence, when you show facts to the team, they will agree with you. So this is the entire process of your critical thinking when you're implementing it, when you're practicing it in your real life. It starts from interpretation, analysis, thinking of the alternatives, coming to the inferences where you shortlist the alternatives, and then you select one conclusion, you come to a conclusion, and you should, if you're going to share it with others, you should be ready with a proper, suitable, concrete explanation of it. And this skill is the mother of all the skills which we have seen, the 4 skills which we have seen. Self-regulation, if you are not doing, it is going to affect the entire process. Self-regulation is self-discipline. In every aspect, am I being honest? Have I validated or confirmed every step before moving into it and coming out of it? So this is a very tough job. अपने आप को सुधारना, लोग कहते हैं कि अगर लोग अपने को ही सुधार ले तो पूरी दुनिया सुधर जाएगी. It's kind of like that. So this is something very difficult. As an educator, you have to do self-regulation, and that will create an example for students also. So here I have come to what all gyan I had to give you about critical thinking. You are renowned teachers, you are well, experienced in your teaching the students, you are masters of your subjects, and I cannot question on that skill. But whatever I knew about critical thinking, I tried to position it in front of you in the most, interesting manner, in the most easy manner possible. I would have shown you in the first slide the definition of the critical thinking, and I would have given you a 2 hours lecture. That could have been very easy for me, just for the sake of it. But this training, this workshop is not for the sake of it. It is when you go out of it, you should be a little transformed, isn't it? If you were A, you will become A+1. This is my purpose of this workshop. So first of all, I took you through some experience. Then we came down to the definition, the actual understanding of it, and then the process. Now, if you look at this, another sort of activity where you have to describe a situation where you challenge the way you and your colleagues did their jobs. Now, this is a very pet situation. This happens. We sometimes criticize. कि अरे ये गलत है, वो गलत है, ये ऐसा होना चाहिए. This should have been done this way. मैं होता तो मैं ऐसे कर देता. We do that. We even when we are watching a cricket match, we become the best batsman. When we are discussing, politics, we become the best prime minister ever had been there in the history, we ourselves. So here is the situation given to you. You can recall certain situation where you are differing from others, and the quality which is revealed is self-regulation and problem solving. So in problem solving, by your self-discipline, did you do certain things very right which other people were not doing? This you can note down. I have given the worksheet to you, so you can do this later also. I'm just discussing, giving you insight on the situation. Second is describe a situation where you saw a problem and took steps to fix it. As a teacher, you might have done it several number of times. कि आपने कोई दिक्कत देखी और फिर आपने उसको fix किया. Like every time a teacher sees that dustbin is overflowing in the classroom, 100 times that teacher has reminded the students that that dustbin has to be taken care of. Somebody has to be reminded कि इसको खाली करो, because ये बार-बार भर जाता है, it is overflowing, and nobody is listening. One day what happened? Teacher came and took the dustbin himself far away to the big dustbin and dumped it there and brought the empty dustbin and put it back. Everybody was shocked. All the students felt very ashamed कि हमारे होते हुए हमारा टीचर पियन के होते हुए हमारे टीचर इतनी दूर डस्टबिन उठा के ले गया. and they realize that this is something they have to take care of. It's their classroom. So that teacher has created an example to solve a problem. He said nothing, he just did it. So these kind of examples are there. Our teachers keep doing it. You can recall certain such where now these kind of skills help you to evaluate the situations. That teacher has evaluated the situation कि उसके remind करने के बाद भी, despite telling everybody, things did not happen. So what he evaluated is that they have to be shown. They cannot listen to the word, they have to be demonstrated. And that teacher did do. Then tell about a time you had to persuade someone to see your perspective. It's very difficult, especially in today's world where social media is, bombarding us with opinions. We watch news channels instead of comedy shows nowadays. So it's very difficult to get somebody into our own shoes and see the things. Was there any such time कि आपने ये किया हो या किसी ने आपके साथ ऐसा किया हो? You think of that. If you are going to think of that and write it down, you are actually practicing and experiencing critical thinking. So when we come to this big factor, bias is always there. Being human beings, biases are there. So हम पहले से ही assume करते, prejudice that is called. When we are listening to somebody, we are already prejudiced. कि इससे तो पिछले महीने मेरा झगड़ा हुआ था. Last time staff room में मेरा इससे argument हुआ था. पिछली मीटिंग में इसने कुछ भी नहीं बोला था. अभी ये मुझे 10 suggestions देने आया है. Last time he was absent when I actually needed him. Bias. So if somebody has come to you, especially with a problem, you can at least, being a human being, you can at least put all those bias aside for a moment, and then you listen to that person with a plain blank paper in your mind. Then action bias. Sometimes we, act indistinctly. This happens in classroom where students are not very disciplined. I take a decision which should not have been taken. So these kind of things are called action bias. We don't think before acting. And association bias. Association bias is very common. Depending on certain things which happen, we create a judgment. We create a frame, and within that frame we fit everybody. कि अरे उनके यहाँ ऐसा ही होता है, उन लोगों में ऐसा ही होता है, वो कंट्री तो ऐसे ही है, that country is like that only. The entire country is blamed, so association biases are there. We try to fit the entire person into that. That's very unfair. So biases actually lead us to being unfair. This we try to avoid, and that's, I tell you, a very difficult job. Even for seasoned leaders, it is very, very difficult. But you must not stop trying, and maybe you succeed, and then things will be better, and you will be a good decision maker. These are certain examples which I have shown you here of critical thinking. Certain situations when we are interacting with somebody who is angry, are we trying to understand the need of that angry person, or I am going to respond to that anger? So next time, guys, what you do is you play Buddha. Somebody comes to you angry, and instead of responding in anger back, you try to find out the need of that person. An angry person coming to you because of your fault even is actually a customer of yours. He has some needs. If you take care of those needs, maybe the situation can be resolved. So try practicing with a big heart, a very difficult job, but try to do that. So trying to be as objective as possible, like without bias, another difficult thing. Working with great precision through a complex experiment. Scientist doing the experiment, a student in science lab trying to do something, or a teacher is demonstrating an experiment with complete precision. That will come with rehearsal. This is one example. You might be writing stories, you might be writing books, might be writing articles, and for that you do critical thinking. Your character is doing something and you're asking the question, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है, ऐसा थोड़ी कर सकता है, मैं कोई साउथ की मूवी की स्क्रिप्ट थोड़ी लिख रहा हूँ कि he punches the guy and that guy flies off the screen. No, that's not possible. Critical thinking, it has to be something real. Running a small business and you're trying to anticipate the future, my business will survive or not. working out the tactical plans, especially in military. A military general is planning an attack or a defense strategy. So these are examples. I'm not going to every one of these examples. These are certain examples which will give you an insight into critical thinking wherever it is applicable. And that will complete the entire learning of the workshop. And these are very real life scenarios. You see a call from a parent. We all class teachers get a call from a parent regarding this complaint or that complaint. Diary खो गई, आपने डायरी में लिखा नहीं, मेरे बच्चे ने होमवर्क नहीं किया, उसकी कॉपी कोई और ले गया, उसका टिफिन कोई और खा गया. So many things are there. I'm just talking out of my experience. Yours might be different. And the performance of the students in your subject in particular section is going down. बाकी सब अच्छा कर रहे हैं, एक section D ऐसा है जो perform नहीं कर रहा है. So you have to get to that problem. You have to find out how will you apply your critical thinking skills there. You have observed that recently you have been reaching in class late. अभी आपने क्या देखा कि एनुअल फंक्शन की तैयारी चल रही थी और आप इंचार्ज हैं, उस वजह से आप 5 मिनट 10 मिनट क्लास में लेट पहुंच गए. कई बार तो आपने क्लास कैंसिल कर दिया, किसी और को भिजवा दिया. This happens naturally. These are the part of the managing things. It does not mean that you don't want to take that class. You cover the curriculum, of course. So you realize that after that you have come into that habit of starting the class late. How will you correct yourself? How will you find out the way out? So with your critical thinking skills, of course. इतना काम है आपके पास कि आप होमवर्क नहीं चेक कर पा रहे हैं. That's a very common problem. इतना सारा कॉपी है, मुझे होमवर्क चेक करना है, मुझे असाइनमेंट्स भी चेक करने हैं, फिर मुझे कोर्स भी कंप्लीट करना है, लेसन प्लान भी बनाना है. So many things are there. So how I'm going to manage all this? Critical thinking will help you. And you do that. Many of you are already doing it. You got a call from parent for somebody bullied one of your students. And those parents actually want to talk to the parent of that child who bullied their child. Now that's a very tough situation. How will you diffuse that? And I think principal or some higher authority will have to involve in it. So this is one situation. The students of a senior class are now students are saying ki sir aap humko ek hafte ki leave de do because we have to prepare for the exam and you have to finish the course. You can only give them 2 days leave. So how will you convince them? They are grown up students, senior class hai, and they have their own reasons and arguments. They have their own ego also. You cannot just show the authority ki no maine keh diya to yahi hoga. You have to convince them. So how will you do that? How will you find out the evidences, put before them and convince them ki okay guys, study has to be covered. You have to come for 4 days class. 2 days I can give you, maybe 3 days. Okay, 3 days I can give you. So this way you are trying to negotiate and you are trying to convince. So these are 6 real life scenarios of which you write down what will be your approach to solve this situation, to come out of this situation. These are the links which you see. I would like you in your free time, you can go to this link, insightsassessment.com, and there are various links here. You can go through this, whatever workshop and whatever knowledge I have shared with you, whatever details I have shared with you, the source of all that detail is from this website. So I was going through this website when I was preparing for this workshop, and whatever I shared, you can go there and you can have more understanding and more information from there. So I'm quoting this link here because whatever I shared with you was the research done on this URL. So they really need the credit for that, insightsassessment.com. And you can go there also and learn more on critical thinking. So with these words, I come to the end of this workshop. Thank you so much.